People come to Feldenkrais after they've tried everything else out.
It really enhances the communication between the brain and the body.
This is really about cultivating an ability to be aware of yourself in movement and in life.
I began to be a musician at about age 7. It's kind of a calling. You don't just choose it, it chooses you. It became my life. That's how I made my livelihood. That's what I did until I was about 28, 29 when I began to have problems with my jaw. So I began to visit various doctors for this pain. After traditional medicine didn't offer help, I began to search for alternative methods over the next 15 years. Nothing really helped. Eventually I decided, well, I haven't tried Feldenkrais.
I say to them, if you've never tried this, come and don't wait until you're suffering.
I said to her, but I have a jaw problem. She said, you know what? Everybody that comes has a problem. She said, what we're going to do is teach you how to use that problem better. But it was phenomenal to me. I realized it was working. I would recommend this to musicians, actors, athletes. I think anybody can benefit from it.
Learning to move our bodies through space begins in infancy. As babies, we explore our environment by moving, touching, reaching, and
just knowing the numbers purely, those aren't good numbers for me. I'm not going to risk that.
Feldenkrais's doctors wanted to operate. Uneasy about submitting to a controversial surgical procedure, the brilliant inventor and engineer began experimenting with biomechanics to learn new ways to move his knee. To his great delight, the pain subsided without surgery, and the Feldenkrais Method was born. Intrigued, Feldenkrais continued to experiment with new ways of moving his own body, marvelling at the capacity of his musculoskeletal system. One movement he devised for retraining his knee muscles involved pretending to slip on a banana peel and then quickly regaining his balance with grace. For several years, Feldenkrais studied anatomy and methodically examined hundreds of movements in minute detail. His success in improving his own range of motion while eliminating his pain motivated him to teach others to improve their own functioning, regardless of their current condition.
He knew so much about movement, but because of the engineering and the physics, and you look at the ergonomics and the biomechanics of how you're using your body, and then the understanding through martial arts of learning how to use yourself well, he started to realize, you know, I can work with people by teaching them through their body to go to their brain, to learn to teach their brain to be reorganized and learn to function better.
It was at this point that Feldenkrais pushed his judo training beyond the boundaries of self-defense and into the realm of self-development.
In martial arts, your ability to recover is your ability to fend off your opponent.
Feldenkrais had found his life's calling, helping his clients defend themselves from such opponents as pain, limitation, and immobility.
He started to create the understanding of the use of the body in a way that becomes efficient and using it better, and the ability to recover from an injury.
Feldenkrais often talked about the importance of living an embodied, balanced life, which he defined as one in which one is able to meet the demands of the moment. Many of his ideas were spawned from martial arts, which train the practitioner to survive in the present moment. However, Feldenkrais urged his students to adopt a mindset far beyond simple survival, that of a joyful, passionate response to life, no matter what their condition.
I think Feldenkrais believed that we really weren't living up to our potential, that we had so much potential for development, and that means not just our brain, but also our capacity to be a human being. And so he was very interested in challenging us to find out what that potential was, to push ourselves to the edges of that, and to live in that way.
And that's what he did for himself. And from there, people became curious, and of course, he had to talk about it. And so from the talking about it, it started to get shared, and he started to create these movement lessons that he called Awareness Through Movement.
In 1951, Moshe decided to move and begin a new life in the newly formed State of Israel. He was given the job of director for the Israeli Army's Department of Electronics and began teaching the Feldenkrais Method after hours. By 1955, he had opened a studio where he taught groups. He guided students privately with functional integration at his mother's apartment. Among his private clients were such luminaries as Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion.
The awareness through movement lessons were the first part of Moshe's work. So he developed those lessons and began teaching them in Israel in the 50s. They are lessons, literally lessons, that explore human function. So lessons, themes might be going from sitting to standing, or reaching, or rolling to come up. He was a judo practitioner, and so a lot of the lessons really have to do with that kind of efficiency and economy of movement that arises out of a judo class.
In the 1950s and 1960s, Feldenkrais published 3 books and presented his work in Europe and the United States. He began a teacher training program in 1969 in the United States with student teachers.
In the beginning, the original 13 were people that studied with him for years and years. This was not something that was done in a short period of time in which he signs them off. The Feldenkrais work is something really that you learn about that takes a very long time.
The Feldenkrais teacher preparation curriculum evolved into a 4-year program of study that had enrolled 235 students by the early 1980s. A little bit more than 2 decades later, students on every continent are using the Feldenkrais system to move beyond their habitual pattern of going through the motions in life. There's also a growing body of scientific proof that suggests that the regular practice of the Feldenkrais system of movement actually can relieve pain and help free us from negative habits and ineffective coping mechanisms.
I got up, my back pain went away.
More and more physicians, physical therapists are becoming practitioners.
Although few scientific studies have been conducted on the Feldenkrais method, one seems to offer reassurance that the movements are safe for almost everyone. It also proved that the pain-relieving effects of a Feldenkrais class can last up to an entire day without side effects.
There are occupational rehab studies, studies with stroke, studies with scoliosis, childhood scoliosis. So we certainly don't have the kinds of funding to make broad studies, but more and more physicians, physical therapists are becoming practitioners, and so that kind of research is being done in an academic setting.
A study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine acknowledged that steadiness and comfort with daily movements may enhance self-esteem and improve overall quality of life in patients suffering from symptoms associated with multiple sclerosis. As a result, feelings of depression and anxiety can be minimized. Scientists are also investigating whether Feldenkrais sessions have a positive effect on the emotions. A recent study suggested that a single awareness through movement session may reduce overall anxiety levels, and the effects markedly increase as the number of sessions increases. As with pain, sustained relief from anxiety can reportedly be experienced for an entire day following a Feldenkrais session. In a matched control group study of 30 female patients with eating disorders, outcomes were measured via a standardized psychological test. The test was conducted following a 9-hour Feldenkrais course. The patients reported feeling improved levels of body acceptance, decreased feeling of helplessness, and increased self-confidence. Still another study, published by the Journal of Occupational Rehabilitation in 1999, found that Feldenkrais sessions reduced neck and shoulder pain. In a group of 97 Swedish auto workers, the ones who practiced the Feldenkrais method experienced significantly lower levels of pain. At Stanford University Hospital and clinics in Palo Alto, California, cancer patients can participate in Feldenkrais classes free of charge to help relieve the numbness, neuropathy, nausea, and fatigue associated with conventional cancer treatment methods.
They hear this is always by word of mouth. They hear from someone, I've tried this thing. It's called the Feldenkrais Method, and it's the awareness through movement. It's lying on the floor and doing these really gentle movement sequences. And I got up. My back pain went away. But the best part was I learned something. I learned how to use myself.
There are several studies suggesting the Feldenkrais system offers beneficial effects that are psychological in nature. On an anecdotal basis, Feldenkrais practitioners often report such positive effects as revitalization of curiosity about their environment, enhanced overall vitality, and boosted self-esteem.
Feldenkrais classes can be difficult.
We're providing your nervous system with sensation.
While it's highly unlikely that one will actually be taller following a Feldenkrais session, it's interesting to note that many practitioners insist they feel taller when they leave the studio.
Moshe used to say, I will teach you to be able to use your body so strongly that you can move a piano. But I will teach you to learn to simultaneously be so sensitive that you can feel when a fly lands on the piano.
Feldenkrais lessons involve a twofold learning process that pairs structured group classes called Awareness Through Movement with private individualized guidance known as functional integration. The Awareness Through Movement class leads a group of participants through movement sequences verbally, focusing on using attention, perception, and imagination.
In the Awareness Through Movement class, where we're verbally guiding the students through a series of movement sequences, they're paying attention to what they're feeling, what they're noticing. That's giving the nervous system information. So it's this feedback loop constantly between the brain, the senses, and the muscles.
Though anyone can benefit from an Awareness Through Movement class, it may be most beneficial to those who want to enhance performance. Those with learning disabilities or neurologically based movement challenges can also benefit. A class enables participants to become conscious of patterns, such as how their body responds to unfamiliar situations. This is a new level of awareness for many. Changes resulting from practice differ widely from person to person. One arthritis sufferer gave up her flute because of the severe pain and stiffness in her fingers. But after 3 Feldenkrais sessions, she was able to resume playing. Another individual had suffered from severe scoliosis since early childhood. Continually admonished to stand up straight, she was frustrated because she simply couldn't. With training, she began to stand up straighter and released the need to meet the unreasonable demands of others. She chose to stand up for herself, attaining a positive outlook and far greater self-esteem.
I worked with a woman with chronic shoulder pain, and after several sessions of working with her, she began to recognize how her shoulder pain could be connected to a sexual assault that had occurred years before. And she hadn't even been aware of the fact that she was holding herself in a protective manner until we began working together. And once she did realize that she had been holding herself in this protective way, she discovered she no longer needed to do that anymore, and it was actually hurting her, causing her this pain. So through our sessions, it helped her to integrate this painful experience and to significantly relieve her shoulder pain.
The functional integration component of the method helps stretching. As we learn and grow, we quickly master sitting and move on to crawling, walking, and running. Every step along the way is an exciting adventure that quickly lapses into an unconscious habit. Then, as we reach adulthood, most of us tend to disconnect from the joy and wonder that accompanied the sense of discovery we cultivated as children. And, unfortunately, some of us stop moving altogether. It took a brilliant engineer and physicist named Moshe Feldenkrais to recognize the connection between physical movement and the psychological motivation behind human behavior. His research and practice convinced him that as our physical movements become more restricted and our range of motion decreases, we tend to stop reaching for long-cherished goals and avoid the challenge of inventing new solutions for problems. Feldenkrais developed an intriguing series of lessons that examine the way we move our bodies, so we can retrain them to move in new ways. He believed that re-educating the body would also change our minds about the way we respond to the world around us.
And with mind and body, you hear a lot about mind-body techniques nowadays, and it's almost sometimes I think we think of this duality of mind and body, and our mind and body is always integrated. It's part of our self. It's a part of being human. We're mind and body. We really can't function one without the other. But what the Feldenkrais method does, it really enhances the communication between the brain and the body.
However, on the purely physical level, the method also seems to be effective in aiding recovery from certain types of injuries and in preventing the onslaught of aches and pains.
When someone calls me to find out if I do private sessions or if I teach classes, I say to them, if you've never tried this, come, and don't wait until you're suffering to come. Come before, because Feldenkrais is preventative. It's a very detailed analysis of how to be awake and alive in your body in this moment.
Feldenkrais uses movement to enhance one's ability to learn and adapt by focusing attention closely on the process of the way in which one is moving. Movement thus becomes more intentional and less automatic. A pioneer in movement science, Feldenkrais delved into the human perception of the sensory-motor organization that is the foundation of human behavior. His goal was to help his clients become more conscious of the sensations of their muscles and joints and enhance their sense of balance, space, and time. Rather than taking the form of sets of exercises, his lessons are experiments that explore functions like bending, extending, rotating, and side bending. Lessons feature topics like what is good posture and the carriage of the head, as well as some fundamental properties of movement. Students learn to increase efficiency by eliminating unnecessary efforts and performing several actions simultaneously. Practicing economy of movement becomes a new habit that may also be expressed in new behaviors and choices. As people become aware of ways that they inhibit motor skills, they discover the relationships between thought, feeling, movement, and sensation. Body awareness expands and new levels of competency are achieved, so self-image often improves, resulting in enhanced confidence in personal interactions.
So when we move, when we do anything, our senses, sight, touch, balance, are giving information to our brain. There's nerve impulses, messages going to the brain. And then the brain takes that information and it sends information back to the muscles, but it's modifying that information based on what the senses are telling you. So it's this constant feedback loop between the brain, the muscles, and with sensation. The nervous system, the brain, will take the sensation from the communication of one's hands, the practitioner's hands.
For instance, maybe you come to me with a musculoskeletal issue, and I notice that you sit like this. Okay? So for example, maybe I'll have you lie down and you lie down like this. So maybe I'll start to gently push and move through your shoulders. Well, if I'm pushing down through the shoulders, think in terms of physics. Think in terms of engineering. It should go all the way down to through my pelvis. And if the person's lying down, it should go all the way down through their feet and out their toes.
Feldenkrais classes can be difficult. Difficult, again, is in the eye of the mover, or the eye of the beholder. He developed a number of classes, so we are on our backs, kneeling, on our bellies. The range and complexity varies, and they can be quite challenging. But for the most part, people who've had an awareness through movement class describe it as a very gentle, very benign class.
The Feldenkrais method is popular with those intent on achieving peak physical performance and integrating the mind with the body. Feldenkrais classes attract athletes, actors, dancers, and musicians, as well as those grappling with learning differences and movement difficulties stemming from injuries or neurological problems. Often people choose the method in the hope that it will help reduce pain when other methods have failed.
Some people that come, and I'll ask them, why are you here? And do you have any pain anywhere in your body? No. Why are you here? They're very curious. They just simply say, I see profound differences and changes in my friend, and I don't get what that's about. And I know that they've been coming to these classes, and I want to experience that.
No special workout wear is required for Feldenkrais practice, although occasionally simple props like blankets or pillows are used for a session that involves sitting or lying down.
How tightly?
The instructor's role is to help bring negative habits into consciousness so they can be corrected.
I guarantee you, if you continue doing this by the end of 80-something years, does that posture look familiar from an old person? It's not just the shrinkage factor. It's because now they're not on top of themselves. Why? Because in life, these muscles in the front of the body become fatigued and they contract. And those muscles don't even remember how to be used.
If I sit like this, and I don't know that I sit like this, and I bring myself to my computer like this is a habit that could constrain my ability to live an authentic embodied life, right? It could also cause pain and discomfort for me.
Feldenkrais taught that no matter how severe an affliction, it is still possible to improve the quality of life.
And to me, that's a big part of it, the ability to be able to live your life to the fullest. And what does that take? No matter whether you are bedridden, whether you are a child, whether you are someone in a wheelchair, whether you are someone that doesn't have the ability to speak, how is it that you have the ability to live your life in the fullest, in the most way that you're capable of living?
Although the Feldenkrais system of movement is extremely gentle, it's still prudent to check with one's doctor before participating in a class, especially in the case of chronic health problems.
Well, I think ultimately Feldenkrais was a very curious individual.
The use of an intelligent self is curiosity, and curiosity is exploring.
Feldenkrais was convinced that the body and mind are intimately connected. He believed that if the muscles of the body could be taught to move in new ways, then changes in behavior or the way we move through our lives would ultimately follow.
He loved to evoke curiosity. And that's what he loved about children. And that's what he loved about young people. That innate level of curiosity is what helps bring about your level of intelligence. That's what intelligence, the use of an intelligent self, is curiosity. And curiosity is exploring, and exploring many different ways to do things.
The number of sessions required is a highly individualized matter, but many people seem to enjoy regular, weekly participation in a Feldenkrais class.
It's about self-learning. And once you start on the road of self-learning and being attentive to how you're moving and using your body, you never want to stop.
Moshe Feldenkrais's fondest wish was that his clients would learn to move with the utmost awareness, conscious and in control of every movement.
The more attentive you are inwardly to paying attention to the outwardly, is the more the healing and the connection to the whole universe happens for you.
Feldenkrais taught his instructors to become keen observers of not only their clients' way of moving, but also their mindfulness of their movements.
And it's like people that are riding the bikes, right, at the gym, and they're all watching the television, and they're not even paying attention to how they're riding the bikes.
As human beings, we do become very automated, very habitual. We don't realize what we're doing. If I ask you, how do you sit down in a chair? What do you mean? I sit. We're not aware of what our legs are doing in relation to our pelvis, our shoulders. So it helps one become aware of their own habits that they hold in their body, and then it provides new choices, new alternatives.
When asked about the benefits they've received from Feldenkrais practice, students often report experiencing better self-image, feeling more comfortable with their bodies, and sensing they're surrounded by unlimited possibilities. Who, among us, would not enjoy feeling like that?
It's about learning how to be different.
To me, that's a great learning.
A major objective of the method developed by Moshe Feldenkrais was that of enabling people to enhance their enjoyment of life. Feldenkrais continually urged his clients to accept responsibility for their own lives, question authority, and resist allowing others to set limits for them.
I too raise my sons in the same environment, or in an environment with the idea of the Feldenkrais method, which is really about individualized thinking and moving and enacting your lives and how you live your life and living your life with choice.
Today, the Feldenkrais method has attracted a strong following among orthopedists, physical therapists, and the dance and theatrical communities. It's taught all over the world by more than 3,000 certified Feldenkrais instructors.
I think that there will be a great need for more practitioners as our society becomes more and more complex, and we have to do so much doing and so much less being.
Sadly, Feldenkrais was only able to teach his program for a brief time before falling ill in 1981. However, at the time of his death in 1984, the octogenarian had trained enough teachers and helped so many clients that his work continues to attract an international following more than 20 years later.
Hence, you see practitioners that focus with dance, that focus in the medical community, that focus in the athletic community, that focus only with children, only with babies, only with elderly, only with people that had certain cancers, with surgeries, with this, with so many. And it's such a gift. He would be smiling.
Some feel Moshe Feldenkrais might have been surprised to see the level of acceptance his work has attained.
I think he would be shocked if he were alive today to go, oh my goodness, there is a cardiac rehab unit that's using Feldenkrais. There are music teachers, there are dance teachers, there are voice teachers, there are physical education teachers. All kinds of teachers are using this method because it's about learning how to be different.
Feldenkrais instructors stress the importance of the experiential nature of the method. It can be a difficult concept for new students to grasp.
Well, most people, they want to relate it to something else. Is it like Pilates? Is it like yoga? Is it like some other method? Is it like chiropractic? And the essence of Feldenkrais is learning, but it's through using the physical body as the instrument for that education, that learning. So most people have a hard time grasping it just intellectually. It's really something that one needs to experience to fully understand.
Adapting to the gentle rhythm of a Feldenkrais session can also be an adjustment for those who are caught up in the hectic pace of our technology-driven world.
You learn your body's wisdom no matter what your age is, and you feel it right away. You notice something, and there's a curiosity in that, and that you want to come back.
I have students that I've been working with for 20 years because once they get here and they recognize the benefits, they don't go away.
Maybe you're going to have a teacher that teaches you a lesson that takes that lesson into life and into every way that you use yourself. To me, that's a great learning.
Most people, no matter if they've practiced Feldenkrais for years or they're just beginning with the practice of Feldenkrais, they will notice changes, differences, benefits immediately. Now, how long those changes last can vary drastically.
It is a philosophy. It is a way of life. It is a way of living your life.
So, some Feldenkrais believers say that practicing the movements on a regular basis can help make the body more flexible and responsive, while freeing its owner of restrictive behaviors and attitudes that tend to get in the way of happiness. Others say it simply helps reduce their aches and pains. Either way, the vast majority of students seem to agree on one thing: practicing the Feldenkrais method may be one of the smartest moves they ever made.